PTV, oberoende, piratistisk media, skapad och finansierad av tittarna.
PTV av statarjävlar för statarjävlar.
It is Wednesday, the 2nd of December 2020. And here we are, just a few steps from beautiful Manhattan, in the middle of Kungsholmen, Stockholm, Sweden. Sending live to you as always. And today we have our PTV. It's our episode, PTVEU, the European episode. Focus on European news. It is number, I think, 16 or 17. I mean, you will find out if you look at the name. I obviously have forgotten, but you can find out. And yes, wow. Okay, should long-term memory fail. Today we can talk about interesting things such as that our coronavirus vaccine decision will come by late December. UK authorized Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for widespread use. Essentially, at least the European Parliament are thinking that we should think that's probably when it's going to become available in the European Union. For whatever reason, they say that. We would also big scandal as an anti-gay Hungarian politician has resigned after being caught by the police fleeing a 25-man orgy through a window. Apparently, these more or less, as far as I can understand, including homosexual acts, they were not allowed to use condoms because that's obviously something you're not supposed to use. So
What?
Yeah, I mean, this is just such a weird and long and complicated story. But again, it kind of goes to show that it would be great if we could just have sex any way we wanted it, and obviously the kind of that sort of double standards that a lot of conservative politicians tends to have, where they're forbidding exactly what they are themselves, which is obviously a little bit problematic. But we actually have a special guest today, so I was thinking let's kind of jump into that. We're going to talk about the
Catalonia situation.
The Catalonia. That sounds so serious. But in many ways, it actually is.
Kind of serious.
So, welcome, Dario.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Christian and
Yes.
Otto, for having me here.
Oh shit, I got doxed again.
So, for all the viewers who hasn't followed our intern chats, who are you?
Who am I? That's a good question. I'm currently the international coordinator for the Catalan Pirate Party. I have had several hats in the party, but currently this is my current position. Also, I have been a city council member in Igualada. That's my town. I don't currently live there. I am at Barcelona, but I was the city council member for 4 years since 2015 with a coalition of different parties, not only as a pirate, but I was the first pirate in Igualada to have that position too. I'm not the first Catalan pirate as a city council member. That's an important tip I want to tell the audience. Professionally, I am a computer science engineer, and I have some free software projects in my own. And maybe if people want to know more about me, later I can give my Twitter or my personal website so they can find out more about me.
Yeah, it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah, we got from the chats if we can use the video. I'm actually not. Let's just ask. I'm a little bit worried about the connection, to be honest, but we could try if you want that, Dario.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Do you
They're asking for you to turn on a webcam or a viewer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Just a second.
But we might ask you to turn it off. It won't be because you're ugly. It will be because the connection might be.
Okay.
So.
But Discord tells me that I'm not allowed to show the
one
webcam
second.
in this channel.
It's so weird that thing. Everyone should have possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfection. Beautiful. Let's hope it doesn't slow down the connections too much. For some reason, it seems.
No, it looks good. It looks really good, actually.
Great.
Yeah. So I got. I'm usually not the first person to hide that I don't know something, and I got aware that we had a pirate party in Catalonia just a few days ago when I read in a chat about a sort of a problem, if one could say that it is a problem that you currently have. Would you explain more about what has happened? That is the emergency, so to speak.
Well, as you probably know, here in Catalonia, there have been in the last decade a lot of growth for the independentist movement, and the leaders of that independentist movement were imprisoned for declaring independence, for going, quote me, against the law. It shouldn't be against the law to talk about how our country should be organized, because that's the main core of the idea of the independence, just to establish how the different regions related between each other. Because of that happened that had the peak at 2017 with a referendum, the famous referendum that was brutally. I don't know now the word for, but anyway, there were a lot of repression. I guess that's a good word for that. Sorry, sometimes my English can be a bit rusty.
No worries.
But anyway, the Spanish state answered with violence, police violence against peaceful citizens that they only wanted to vote. And then from those days, one of our fellow pirates, Francisco Garrobo, that's his name, was sentenced the past week to 3 years and a half and 1 day to prison, because he participated in a general strike that was legally announced and promoted. So, and because he was the mediator in a picket line, so they took him as a scapegoat. And after this year, because this happened in 2017, exactly in November 8th, and 3 years later, he has been sentenced just for being a peaceful mediator in a general strike day. And that's the gist of the idea. And actually, the sentence, the sentence of his case, takes as an example the sentence to the independentist leaders, where the judge just rewrite the concept of violence.
Wow.
It's very, very dark hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I just, that doesn't really sound democratic.
Nope.
And I sort of have a problem with that, because Europe is turning a right turn, so to speak, and have been doing for a couple of years. And I didn't know that situations was this bad in that region. I did know that
Yeah.
the election system in Spain is weird, but I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, it can be weirder. I can assure that. But anyway, here in Spain, it's very easy to get votes if you are anti-Catalan, and that's what the Popular Party have been doing since 2006. This comes from a very, very long time ago, not a century, but actually in 2006, if I'm not wrong, Catalonia had a new statute we call regional constitutions. We call them statutes, and Catalonia got a new one, and this was a fruit of negotiation between the different parties in Catalonia, also with a negotiation with the central government. Okay, it was a legitimate statute. It provided more sovereignty to the Catalonia, but it wasn't an independentist work. It was more like a federal works. It had a federal core, federal soul instead of independentist. But then the party and government was the socialists, and the Popular Party, the People's Party. Sorry, in English it's People's Party, not Popular.
No worries.
Partido Popular. And then the People's Party started a campaign against that institute. An institute that had some articles that were later state like not valid or unconstitutional, although they were present in other institutes of other regions of Spain. That's a funny thing to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the start of the growth of the independentist movement here in Catalonia.
But wait, just to make it clear. What time was that you got this new kind of how to say relationship with the central government? That new law. What year was that?
It was 2006. I mean, that was the beginning of everything. There were some discomfort because Catalonia and the rest of Spain, with some this discomfort was present with some regions, not all of them, but anyway, especially with Madrid. Madrid on itself is a region. There have been always some kind of discomfort, and being anti-Catalan has been always a good thing outside of Catalonia, of course. Anyway, until 2006, this campaign against Catalonia, against the Catalan statute happens again. Well, happens, but it's like not the first time that everybody goes against us. And then is where the independent movement. Anyway, we weren't there. We weren't in 2006. Catalan Pirates appeared on 2010. Okay, we appeared like 4 years later than the Swedish party. Why is that? In 2007, the Spanish Pirate Party was founded, but by some internal issues, caused in part by their own statutes, it becomes inoperant. And in 2010, an independent group of people decided to create the Catalan chapter, but as an independent party. Catalan Pirates are not independentists, okay? We are a party that we want self-determination of all countries, of all people, but because it's on our DNA to be able to decide how we want to be organized and how we want to relate with each other from the individual level to the group, to the community level. That's something that we feel that as pirates, as an international movement, it's something that is present in our core ideas. And well, we appeared on 2010, as I said, and we ran for elections in the same year. We were legalized in the I don't want to lie, on October 4th of 2010. I started in the party 1 month before that. And we ran for the elections on November 25. So it was like 1 month and a half before the elections. Well, we started small. Currently, we are 1,000 members in Catalonia. It's not a big party, but some parties that have representation have this size.
How many people are voting in Catalonia?
4 millions and a half, 5 millions, something like that.
Okay, about the half.
4 millions.
Yeah, half or about the half amount of Sweden. Then cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge region. Really.
Yeah, we are. We vote like 4 million, but we are about 7.5 million of people here. Yeah, it's a nice region.
And can I because I find it just to kind of get the background here, because because obviously this is I think most people know, but just to be clear, I mean this is a region of Spain, and where you are now, what we're talking about here is the election for the region municipality, essentially, or the regional government. And so how is your really, because there is a Spanish pirate party as well.
Yeah, but actually it's not active. We are not sure because there are no members on the party. We guess that with the last reform of the laws that govern parties here in Spain, there was a disposition that stated that parties that don't adapt to the new rules, they were going to be dissolved or by judge. I mean, officially, they are going to be officially dissolved. So we don't know what is going to happen to the Spanish Pirate Party.
Wow.
What happens?
Yeah. What exactly would be the rule that they would break against, do you think, there? Just to be clear.
No, do you mean about this adaptation from the new rules?
Yeah. Do you know any of the specific rules that they would break by existing?
No, they were. I mean, they are not breaking rules by itself. They just don't adapt their own statutes to the new legislation. Here in Catalonia, we had to modify our statutes in order to be compliant with the new law.
And what does this new law say? That's what we're trying to.
It was like 1 year ago.
We don't have. You don't have to know anything. It's okay.
No. But I work on that. I worked on that, but I don't remember the details. It was, they were supposed to introduce more transparency to the parties, to modify some personal data management because of the GDPR, etc. It's not something like you must be in that way. It's just like a modernization of the current legislation. It's
all right. So
bureaucracy.
Yeah. So essentially, the Central Pirate Party, they haven't really done that, which means that you can wonder whether they are active at all. Because if you were an active party, you would at least do it. It's not like it's not like something. Well, you can never do this. Just to be clear, it's not. Yeah. Good. So we're at somewhere around 2010. I mean, and after what happens? What happens around this time after you've started? If you go on into go on with the history.
Okay. In Catalonia, then what happened in 2010 after those elections? The independentist movement got more present in the parliament, and that was the next step to the in the path that bring us later to the 2017. For us, when we were asked about what do you think about independence, because it has been the hot topic in the past decade. It has been like the big elephant in the room for us. We always said the same. We want you to vote. We are a direct democracy party. It would be ridiculous for us to have an stance in this specific subject for two reasons. We want to vote more, and we want people to self-determine. We want people to choose how they are governed, how their life are. Okay, so sorry. We were going by with this argument, with this argumentation. Sorry, with this argumentation to until I don't remember now, but at some point in 2007 we had to choose sides. We are not independentists, as I said before, but we side with the referendum because we feel that it was the democratic way to solve it, to solve the issue, because it's a political issue. Okay, but what happened between 2010 2017, because there are 7 years in the middle? Well, we keep running to the elections until 2011, that they modified the law, the electoral law, to make it harder to run for elections. At that time, happened that there was a small party that was called Podemos. Yes, we can, or we can. And the big parties, Socialists and People's Party, they saw that they were going to be debunked by other parties. So they make it harder to run for elections. Also, in 2011, there was the May 15 movement. That was an important movement in Spain. Pirates were kind of responsible for that. And it's a very, very little known fact, because the first movement that was one of the seats for the May 15 was another movement that was called No les votes, don't vote them. Because a law the two big parties passed that was called the Cinde law. Cinde was the culture minister at the time from the Socialist Party, and it was a law that allowed a new commission to close websites if they share pirate content. So if they share culture with although even if they didn't have any monetary gain, if they just share culture for sharing data. So it was like a very anti-pirate law. And then some members of the Catalan party, along with other Spanish pirates that were active at the time, they kind of created, with more people, not only us, they created this movement, No les votes. It was very active on internet, and then the situation in Spain, it was brewing and in the act of being created a lot of discomfort against the bipartidism, the two big parties. and then everything conflicted. Well, they meet at the same space and time point, and then the May 15th happened. We actually, as pirates, I can trace some things that we provided to this movement, like Etherpad and Mumble, as tools of participation, because we introduced them in one of the smaller movements that ended in the May 15. That it was this is going to be hard to translate. Estado del malestar, that would be the opposite of welfare state. We can call it discomfort state. It would be like the opposite. It was a wordplay with Estado del bienestar, that is welfare. That is Spanish for welfare state.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
The shit fair state.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's difficult to translate. But anyway, at that point, it was harder to run for elections. In 2012, we were able to, because I said a lot that it was harder, but why? It was harder because we had to collect signatures to run for elections in each province, that it's a smaller region inside of each region in Spain. We had to collect like 0.1% of the census in signatures. And here in Spain, it's not usual to use the electronic signature. Even nowadays, it's not very common, and it's very bad implemented. But so we had to collect them in paper. So it was like province of Barcelona, and we always had to collect more of that, because they didn't check all the signatures. They did a statistical sample in order to validate all the signatures.
And I mean, just to go back, the May 15th time. Could you talk more about that? What exactly happened at that point in time?
We can trace that to be something similar to the spring, the Arab Spring, I guess it's called. I don't know.
Yes.
Do you remember also in 2011 that there were a lot of movements around the world that some were able to get out governments, and then some in the Arab Spring, some of them ended very badly, like Syria, if I don't remember bad.
Yeah, Syria. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Spain, it happened something similar, but we didn't get out the current government. Actually, the next government was one of the People's Party. So we didn't pull a good change in that way in the moment. And it was a very, very horizontal movement, and actually it's considered one of the roots of Podemos. A lot of people in Podemos started in the May 15th. It was beautiful to see. I remember being on remote, helping with infrastructure in Plaza Catalunya, Catalonia Square in Barcelona. I was in my town, and I remember being on the phone with one of my fellow pirates, and setting up everything, trying to make it work for the assembly. We introduced digital voting, a very rudimentary digital voting tool. We tried to help a lot. That was very, very, very huge. It was impossible to handle for a small group. There were a lot of citizen assemblies in Spain, and it was really beautiful. That's something that will always be fond
Yeah.
to remember that.
I mean, there was a massive, just for those who didn't, I mean, this was international news at the time. There was massive protests going on. And I think, at least as far as I can remember, yeah, you had, that's when you started hearing about Podemos. And that's also when you started, I think a lot of people started understanding that there's a lot of people who want to see independence. And I think to a certain, that's kind of what the media said, which I always think to a certain extent was an exaggeration of the demands of a lot of people. But, you know, it's like BLM protests or whatever you see, it's always the same thing. They kind of, this is what everyone wants. And you go, I think a lot of people, you know, but that's what I remember from that particular time. Could you maybe tell us a little bit, because you talked about the kind of two big parties here. You have the Popular Party, which I guess is traditional right, and you have the you have the Socialist Party, which tends to be, I'm not sure, are they actually socialist, or are they kind of I don't know, like corporatist, kind of corrupted old party?
No, not that. On the corporate, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. On the corporate, yes, but not the corrupt. Well, I'm going to try to explain everything because it's a bit longer history. People's Party and Socialist Party, they were in the middle of a corruption storm.
Yeah.
Because they had cases in both parties. Okay. People's Party is way worse than Socialist Party in that aspect, but anyway, they were both. How to tell that? I'm trying to find the words to be clear. Okay. So the Socialist Party here is not like in some other places that it was like the Communist Party, that it became corrupted in some countries and everything. Here, the Socialist Party was a clandestine party. It was illegal. It was illegal during the dictatorship. And then their corruption is more, it's more political. I mean, it's more related maybe with unions that were tightly related with the Socialist Party. They were corrupt. And People's Party had a lot of people that were members of the dictatorship. Okay, or at least not. I don't mean that like they just got the members directly from the dictatorship. I mean, they have a lot of people that have sympathies with the dictatorship, with Francoism. And that was the two big parties. The one that was more traditional, that with some reminiscence from Francoism, and then the Socialist Party, that although they weren't. Or maybe they were corrupt, or they had some corruption inside the party. They were more progressive, but actually at the end, like in other places in Europe, the Socialist Party, it's more like a social liberal party. They are not a left-wing party. Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's so interesting, because that's what we've seen in Sweden. I think all over, you know, when you look back at it and you look at the last 30 years, I feel in a lot of places, the socialist parties, or whoever says that, they've gone very liberal in their economic policies while maintaining some veneer of social justice on top of it, where they hope to gain.
That's right.
So you kind of have that way, and kind of so everything is happening, and then Podemos is kind of rising a little bit out of the ashes of a mistrust to both of these organizations, where really no one is obviously speaking for the normal person anymore in many ways, right?
That's right. It's something like the Pirate Party in Czech Republic. That they had this kind of this kind of discourse. So because I feel sometimes that the Czech Pirate Party did something like Podemos here in Spain, okay? Because they share some traits in this aspect, no? That focusing on that normal person has no longer a voice in politics, okay? But anyway, Podemos will be more left wing. More or less, they tend to change some of their ideas in a very short term. They try to be a catch-all party, but actually they were able to eat alive another left-wing party that was called Izquierda Unida, United Left. And that party is now inside of them. But that party was like the biggest left-wing party alongside the socialist vote. And it's like the United Left was unable to be attractive for the people, and Podemos was the next hot thing of next hot political party. And because they had this discourse, they had this nobody listens to you, now we are going to listen to you.
No, exactly. It's interesting to hear because I mean it can kind of go two ways, right? And I'm sure that Podemos. I mean, it's easy to go. You can either go into a more fascist streak when you do populism, right? But I mean, which we clearly see. But so Podemos, in a way, at least went left and still managed to get a lot of people to actually follow them with a very clear populist message. And I mean, let me be clear on how I think. I think populism is great. Okay, I think that's exactly what you need to do. Not that some questions aren't complicated, but if you cannot find the simple, way to say it, and if you cannot find the simple way to express what you want to do and where your heart lies, then you have to sit down and think a little bit more. Like if you can't make it simple, then you haven't understood it.
Well, that discussion about the populism that will take a lot of time.
Yeah,
but I don't I don't agree at the fullest. But I agree in one thing: populism works because it starts in something that it's a truth. Okay, it's something true, that politics are very detached from the population. And it feels like nobody's listening to you or nobody cares about you, and that's something that is real. I think that we should be able to find a non-populist way that expresses the same. But anyway, that will be another debate.
Yeah, no, but it's super interesting because but yeah, we maybe we can come back to that because let's move, because I mean it goes down to strategy, right? And what can the pirate, how can pirates think about strategy, and in what way can we be more populist? Because I think there is actually a reason to be. I mean, a lot of people don't understand when you go like, well, the copyright law. I mean, you can put that in populist terms. It's still true, right? But you got to be honest with yourself. You shouldn't lie, right? Which is, obviously. But so Podemos rises out of these ashes, and from this on, I mean, as far as I can know, I remember Catalan being in the news for several times. I mean, it's just like it's a lot of things. People getting arrested, thrown out of the country. What happens here?
Well, that happened 6 years later, because we were now in 2011, and just to make a quick summary and advance to the key year 2017. Sorry.
Yeah.
I want to finish a little bit of history. We were running for election each year. We ran for election in the Catalonia the Catalonian Pirate Party, we ran for election as the Pirate Confederation of Spain, with all the pirate parties, regional pirate parties that were created between 2010 and 2014. We ran as the Pirate Confederation. That it was a project to try to put a national structure in Spain for all the pirates around the country. It didn't fully work because it's very hard to maintain a party. Not even imagine to maintain 7 parties. And then, there was a point that I think it was 2015 that we weren't able to collect all the signatures, and then we were a bit lost because in them everything was independence. All that people cared about was independence, independence, and more independence. We were fine with that because we think people has the right to vote about self-determination. But politically, the Pirate Party was like out of place. So.
And sorry, to be clear, Podemos was for independence, right? And the other parties were against it, or how was this?
No. Podemos tried to put forward a federal proposal, but federal Spain, it's something impossible because the current power thinks that Spain is enough decentralized. They tell everybody, no, Spain is highly decentralized. It's the most decentralized country in the world. That's not true because if Catalonia wants to pass a law and the central government doesn't like it, they send the law to the constitutional tribunal, and probably that law is going to be null.
So essentially, the constitutional tribunal or the judge, the legal side here, has been politicized by the central government to use it as a form of control of the independent states.
Yeah, and actually they did a modification of the laws, a reform that made the disobedience of the sentence of the constitutional tribunal a crime. That wasn't like this before. I don't know, I don't remember the year, but maybe 2014 to 2015. They changed that. They turned something that was a political issue, that was okay, the constitutional tribunal says that, but we think the opposite as government of the region, and that was fine for 40 years. And then being opposed to the constitutional tribunal caused to be considered a crime. So then you can have a government that is criminal just for not accepting a rule from that from the constitutional tribunal.
And
that's something that the People's Party did.
And I mean, just to say how important that is, because once you have a criminal government, this is kind of when military is. That's the sort of stuff you start want to use. So you get into this. It's very, that's really shady. So Podemos couldn't be openly for some form of independence here, but the discussion was so kind of. I guess a lot of people who kind of thought so, or at least there should be a vote, were on Podemos' side, and those who didn't think so, they would be on the other two, on the socialists and the Popular Party side.
They actually were in favor of the referendum, but with the pass of the time, they were sliding more to the opposite way, but trying to be in an equidistant position.
Yeah, okay.
Like saying, we are not independents and we are not unionists. We call the other side the unionists.
Yeah.
So they want the union or even the recentralization of the country. And well, yeah, Podemos have tried to play a role that was impossible to play, because being in favor of more decentralization or more in autonomy for the different regions, it's like blasphemy for a third of the population of Spain. There is a third of the country that they don't want more decentralization. What they want is to be more centralized. There are people that even they want to remove the official status of the different languages of Spain, because for them it's like something that it shouldn't exist, and that's a fact. And I'm not exaggerating. That's a fact. Currently, the People's Party is collecting signatures. They like to collect signatures to change the. I don't know the exact text of the proposal, but the main idea is that they want to force the Catalan government to allow people to choose that their children should be educated in a single language, and that single language is Spanish, not Catalan. Here we have a special education system that we call it the linguistic immersion, where the minorized language, Catalan in that case, is used through all the educational levels, and it's the main language. We have Spanish classes, that's for sure, but all the classes are in Catalan because it's a smaller language.
So I mean, yeah. I mean, so and I mean, it's just connecting that back. I mean, you've had there's obviously a tradition for this sort of proto-fascist, very very nationalist thinking, I guess, in parts of Spain. But you're saying one third of the people, even in Catalonia, was really really strongly against it. So you got this kind of anti, how to say, authoritarians people against the decentralization, or kind of let me. I don't like to use the word libertarian, but say an anarchist way of thinking.
Sorry, we were talking about the authoritarian people.
Yeah.
And now you put here in the mix anarchists.
Yeah, but or rather, let's say liberal people or decentralization, like because you're having these people that wants more decentralization, like you would say, because you wouldn't say. I suppose the party wouldn't say, "Hey, let's leave." It's more like we should have the right to decide, and there should be, to a certain extent, more democracy, and the people should vote, right? And then you have a certain part of the population. Even voting is blasphemy. I mean, this shouldn't even be an issue at all, because we are a nation, and you should shut up, and we should have our king, and he decides, and this voting is stupid, kind of. So you kind of get those two arguments a little bit.
Yeah. Also, this anarchist idea or soul, it's the soul of the Catalonian Pirate Party. We have anarchist members. We have libertarian members in the European meaning, not the American meaning.
Like, everybody emphasizes that.
Who knows it?
Yeah, I mean, but it starts to get important to say, because libertarian just has started to have a very very different meaning in a certain extent.
Yeah, but here in Catalonia, and also in different regions like Euskadi, the Basque Country, and Galicia or Andalusia, the authoritarian peoples tend to be less than the other regions. Okay, usually the people is more progressive in a general sense. Obviously, there are people that even living in Catalonia, they don't want a Catalonia that it's Catalan. They want a Spanish Catalonia. They want a place where Spanish is used everywhere. Actually, it's used everywhere. It's not something that there are places that only speak Catalan. Maybe you can find a town with 2,000 people, or no, maybe 200 people that they only speak Catalan. Okay, but not like in Catalonia. There is no presence of the Spanish language. It is everywhere. So it's not a language that it's at risk. Catalan is at risk.
Yeah, but it's worth saying so people don't misunderstand this. It's yeah, everyone speaks Spanish.
Yeah, and there were a poll recently that showed that less than the 20% of the young people around, I think it was between 18 and 30 years old, or 25, speaking Catalan. The rest, like 80% or more, speak always in Spanish. That's why we defend our language. But anyway, I was finishing the story. Catalonia is very interesting, and Spain too. But it's a lot. It's very complex. It's very complex subject to and it's impossible. I know to don't go through a different discussion.
Yeah. No, but it's super interesting. You're doing a great job. It's just good, and we're going through some of these basics, and I'm just asking some questions just to get the foundations. So we're moving forward to 2017 slowly here. Continue.
Yeah. Well, we ran for elections in 2014. I was a candidate. I wasn't a good candidate actually, but anyway, we were able to run for elections. It was the big year for Podemos and also for another party that was called Partido X, the X party, that was created by a person that was against pirates, actually.
Wow.
And well, we did a very, very well. It wasn't a bad result for us, but it wasn't the result that we wanted or the result that we expected to do. Podemos and X party weren't present because we were like the ideal option to be a catch-up party too. But anyway, that is the past. That cannot be changed. We learned a lot. And then in 2015, we ran for municipal elections, also for local elections, and we get 2 city council members, one of them me. And I forgot to say that in 2011, we got our first local city council member. That it was in a little town close to Igualada too. And well, anyway, this allowed us to learn a lot, to transfer this knowledge, this real political knowledge and practice to the party, and also to transfer our knowledge as a party, as our innovations or way of work that was very different at the moment from other parties to the institutions and also to other parties, because we had this kind of symbiotic relation with other parties, but not in like very tightly related, but like very, very, very punctual. I mean, in each country,
based on policy issues.
Yeah, and each different city or town where pirates were working to be in the city council, there were a lot of different alliance. We did alliance with Ada party. Probably you know them as Catalonian Comú. I don't know if you know the current. No, okay. The current mayor of Barcelona, Ada Colau, was an activist, and she became like on herself became like an spin-off of Podemos, or at least we can say that they appeared at the same time. Okay, so here in Catalonia, Podemos for a lot of time has been part of this other group that we call Catalonian Common.
Mm.
Okay, because they call themselves the Commons.
Mm.
Well, they were like the Catalan chapter of Podemos, but being completely independent. Something like the Catalonia Pirate Party with the Spanish Pirate Party. Okay.
Okay.
They appeared at the same time, but they were independent. There was no relation between them. And also we did some alliance with the independencies, but not the main parties. Like, this is going to be hard also to translate because also they changed names like 3 or 4 times. There is this party that was Convergence. Okay, that they were one of the parties that they were an independents, but later they converted to independents. And also Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya, the Catalonia's left Republicans, more or less.
Left Republicans, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That they were independent from the beginning. It's a party with a century of life, so they are very old. They existed before the dictatorship.
But essentially, you and I mean, I just like to hear this because I mean, to a certain extent, it also tells what a tumultuous political period you're having, where a lot of these old parties and new parties are forming and have to change their political views pretty much overnight, depending on different things that comes from the central government, different things that happens on the street, probably as people are protesting, trying to edge out how they are different from these other new parties. And also, but kind of also to a certain extent, actually managing to cooperate in a broader power struggle, which is interesting to hear, you know, like because obviously you could imagine that these political parties takes to extremes and you know refuses to work together because you know obviously how are we going to stand out and so on, but quite you know enabling to exist in a you know. Pretty much directly in some form of ecosystem where they can help each other and push each other.
Yeah. And well, we did alliance with the smaller independentist party that has representation in the parliament, that it's called the CUP.
Nice name.
Right. Yeah. But CUP of like in a cup.
Okay. Well, still.
CUP.
I like it.
But the pronunciation, it's something different in
Yeah.
English. Yeah. They are called Candidatura Unidad Popular, the People's Unity Candidatures, more or less. They are a left-wing party. Actually, they are Marxists. They are not exactly communists, but maybe modern communists. And well, we have different alliance, including in Barcelona City. It is one of our better alliances that we have currently. And then, well, we started to collaborate with both movements / parties, and we ended running for elections with the second ones. Not because we wanted to be independentists, because they wanted to create a more wider candidature with not only independentists but also self-determination people that want self-determination. Although maybe they don't want the independence, they want a confederation, a federation, a free state, associated, whatever. There are a lot of.
And may I ask, because it kind of makes. I mean, you may say, well, it's kind of weird for a party that just, you know, well, the people should decide to side with the side that says, well, we should definitely not do this. But I take it to a certain extent, that's also what you had to do to be able to get some form of political power in this. And I get that the no side was more open to the idea to let people vote, because obviously I think it's pretty clear that that's what a majority of the people would vote for or would want, right?
Actually, in 2015, CUP with their elected members, they pushed a lot in the parliament the idea of the referendum, the idea of that referendum that crystallized in 2017. Even before that, pirates were telling everybody, we need to do a referendum, even if it's not authorized by the central government. We were like the first one to say it, and then everybody was okay with the idea.
Yeah.
We were like a bit of visionaries, we were able to see the future for a moment, and we were like, okay, this must be the way, because democracy must be the way to solve this, even if the other parties doesn't agree for a referendum. But we were like, okay, you don't want a referendum, we are asking for the referendum, you are denying it. We are like, okay, this is a cul-de-sac. This street has no continuation. We are in a dead zone.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to ask ourselves what we want, and then tell the central government, okay, this is what we want, and the people agrees with this, even if it's not the independence, if it's another model.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because as you know, otherwise you always get this, well, you don't know if a majority want this. I mean, you keep saying that this is what you want, but you don't represent all of the people, you know? And then you say, well, let's vote about it. No, you can't vote about it. So yeah, I understand. So, and moving forward from there then.
Yeah. Well, after the European elections and the Catalan elections with coup, then it was from 2015 to 2017. It was what we call the Catalan process, although it started in 2010 officially. The Catalan process, the Catalan. At the beginning, you used another word, but it was the same. The Catalan issue, but we call it the Catalan process. And then those 2 years were like the moment where we get more I don't find the word now, sorry, more public recognition.
Yeah.
Clout.
Because we were all in for the referendum. We help against the censorship, because the Catalan government put up a website with information for the referendum, and the Spanish government asked a judge to issue a general order that is highly illegal to close to close the website, and also any other website that speak about the referendum. We cloned the official website. They closed one domain of our website, and also a lot of sorry, a lot of different websites on the internet. I see WIP because it's something that the party did. Okay, that's only for my legal security and all the members of the party. We need to be very careful about that.
Oh yeah.
In fact, we don't know who did it.
Yes.
We don't know of.
By a chance, someone, maybe an AI, actually cloned the websites.
That would be a possibility.
Yes.
That would be a possibility. No, the person who did that was completely anonymous. Not related with Anonymous, the group, but anyway, Anonymous, but as a fact. And that was like the turning point for us, because people recognized our actions as a group as being against the censorship. And then we reached 2000. I should check it, but there were another elections after the referendum. No, sorry. There were Spanish elections, okay, because Catalonian Pirates Party has always ran for all the elections. So we think that we can, or we should be in all the places where the decisions are taken, although they are in Madrid, Barcelona, whatever. And then for those Spanish elections that happened after the referendum, we COOP didn't want to run for elections, but we wanted to run for elections. But COOP is a very special group because it's formed by different groups and also even different political parties. It's like a meta political party for the far left wing politics in Catalonia. And one of those groups wanted also to run for elections. So COOP didn't run for elections, but Pirates and that group that it's called Free People, Pobla Lliure, ran for the elections, for the Spanish elections, with another political party that was created by one ex-leader of Podemos in Catalonia, that it was called Alternative. Okay, the very simple name. We created a candidate that was called Republican Front Republica, and that was the biggest candidate where the Catalan Pirates have participated, because we get almost 3% of the votes, 3% of Catalonia, almost. We didn't reach the 3% exactly, because in that case we will have representation in Madrid, in the Spanish Parliament, because the threshold is at the 3%.
That's incredibly annoying.
But we were very close. We were very, very, very close at that at this time.
Yeah, but just to sum it up, so we have some new people. So we've been going through here a bit of a long history. But so these latest years are leading up to the referendum. We're getting to the 2017 referendum, but there is a lot of political turmoil. And the pirate movement has started to get a lot of recognition because they have their sites essentially taken down by the central government, and by some weird chance they are they are being reposted and republished, and the political movement right at this point is ripe, and so 2017 enters here. What happens? What was the referendum about? Maybe if we go into this now.
Yeah, the referendum. Okay, as the referendum was organized by independentist parties, the question wasn't an open question. It was, do you want Catalonia to be an independent state? That's simple. I think I don't remember if there was a second question, because there was a lot of polemic about if it should be one question, two questions.
Yeah, always. Yeah,
exactly. Sorry, but anyway, the main idea was that should Catalonia be an independent state?
Yeah, and note already the central government here is obviously completely against this and have taken down websites that are proposing this as an idea. So you're starting to see this really huge clash between the Catalonian local government and the central government at this point.
Yeah, and that referendum was organized by the people. The people helped to buy the ballot box.
Yeah,
the ballot boxes, all in a very hidden way. So for the security of everybody, the Catalan government organized a very secret distribution of those ballot boxes. Also, the votes, the paper votes, everything was distributed in a secret way, because there was a security concerns about what was going to happen with that, with the people that was organizing the referendum. The result is already known. They are in prison.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we didn't know what was going to happen. I think a lot of people thought that Europe won't allow to anything bad happen to Catalonia, because it's a huge region. It's I don't want to say rich, but it's a very productive region. We are not actually rich, not compared with other countries in Europe. And also, we thought, okay, this is just a referendum. It's nothing more. It's people putting a paper in a ballot box. What's wrong with that? I think everybody thought that Spain will say, okay, that's enough, but let's talk. We are not going to give you the independence, but let's try to find a solution. The solution wasn't that. I mean, the solution that they decided to apply wasn't dialogue.
Yeah.
It was violence, police violence. I remember being waiting for voting, and each time a big car, a small truck, a van, something that was noisy, or a siren in the far away, caused on us a lot of distress.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we knew we did the right thing because we wanted to vote, but we were getting news about police raiding schools, beating people that only wanted to vote, as I said before. And it was like a very hard experience. Although we weren't beaten, at least in my school, we saw the images that you probably also saw. And it was very hard because it was like, okay, we just wanted to vote. What was so hard or so difficult to understand, and why this answer? Why we need police? Also, this connects with another characteristics of Spain because of the May 15. And I'm not going back to 2011, but something important. A new citizen security law appeared. Okay, and actually we call it the gag law. The gag as in obstructing your mouth, so you cannot scream. And it's a very similar law that, like the one that is currently being protested in France.
Yeah,
that's the same idea. So, but in France, their demonstration are very more powerful than us, I think, because here the gag law is a current law, but in France has been cancelled, denied.
Can you explain what that's about?
Well, you cannot police, although the Constitutional Tribunal has been very generous to declare that article invalid, but like a month ago, and that law is from 2011. What else? There are more restrictions to organize a demonstration, and some limitations in what relates to demonstrations.
Well, I can just imagine, just to go through that. I mean, what a shock it must have been, because for a lot of people, I mean, just realizing that, because I guess it's also something you think they can't just send the police and beat up people. I mean, it's a democratic society. I mean, they gotta let us do this, and kind of realize it must have been such a change of mood in the whole region, and such a kind of wink back to, I mean, we're only 40 years from a pretty. I mean, it's still in the memory of people, right?
There are even people alongside the roads that is buried there. There is people, Republican people, that their graves are in the middle of a road or the forest. Their families were unable to get back their corpses. So they have they have families that they must pay to exhumate their own relatives. Also, there is another thing that it's not very known outside of Spain, but there were a lot of cases of stolen babies that lasted from the beginning of the dictatorship until 1985. That's actually the year I was born.
Lucky. Then.
Like 11 years after the end of the dictatorship, and that's something that the Francoism and later the democratic governments didn't fix, and that's heartbreaking. That's really heartbreaking. And there is a third of the Spanish people that they are fine with that. They don't want to solve these issues. They want just to forget.
I mean, and that's an important kind of background to have. That there is an extreme difference when it comes to the authoritarian, libertarian / anarchist scale here, where some people are very, very, very authoritarian, and nationalist, right? We have a good question from the chat, and we'll take that in between. Isn't it a problem for Catalonia that their autonomous state status isn't protected through the constitution, but rather from the benevolence or kindness of the central power, which means that anytime Catalonia pushes for independence, the Spanish central power can threaten and say, if you dare to do this or that, we will revoke the autonomous status?
Yeah, actually, that's the Article 155, that it wasn't developed in law as it was expected, because it should have been developed in those 40 years that they have to write a law to manage something that was written in the constitution. So the application of this article was highly arbitrary, because nobody knew how to apply this article. So they decided on the fly to do it in that way. And they say, okay, enough autonomy. Well, what is happening now, that Madrid, it's not independentist, but the government is kind of a rogue government sometimes. And they threaten also the Madrid itself was threatened to have applied the same article. And it was like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah, so it's kind of used as a political power play, kind of same as then the central legal body as well, that is being used in different ways as a form of political tool to maintain central control.
Yeah. That's the gist of the question.
But clearly here, so we're into this kind of great shock, and I think everyone remembers that there's a lot of things written about this. I think generally the real stories weren't really told. If you really wanted to know what happened and how bad it was, I don't really think you got the idea that you were voting and that there was rioting in the street, and that's kind of, I think that's what most people would understand. Not really that you have a lot of people here that just got beaten up for voting, which is probably a little bit more line. I mean, you can always find criminals. I mean, let me be clear on that. No matter what, no matter where there is police, they will find criminals. All right? You got to ask a little bit, are these really criminals? Or are the police just calling them criminals? Because at the moment they arrest someone, that's a criminal. All right? For whatever kind of reason. They can always say that.
And that actually, sorry for interrupting you, that actually brings me to the beginning of this conversation with the case of my fellow pirate, Francisco Garrobo, because of those events of 2017, where the definition of violence has been redefined, has been changed, and anything can be criminalized as violent because it's against the status quo. Then a simple mediation for a peaceful demonstration that even the police said, and in their testimonies, that it was peaceful and they didn't intervene because it was really peaceful. It was a little bit of tension because it's normal, because when you see the police, who doesn't get a little tense? But there wasn't violent actions in that demonstration, for which my fellow pirate has been sentenced for 3.5 years. Okay, and that's because the Spanish government and the Spanish judiciary have decided that anything that goes against the status quo, it must be violent, and it must, even if it's a. I don't know if you know the specific case of one of the political prisoners. I mean, the two Jordis, that the only two persons that aren't politicians, Jordi Cuixart and the other Jordi Sanchez. Maybe I'm wrong now. I'm very bad for names. But anyway, the two Jordis, they are civil leaders. They aren't politicians. They didn't have any. They weren't elected members. Okay. The act of violence that put them in prison was, please take a seat and take your coffee, because it's going to be very surprising if you don't know about. It's to getting up a police car that it was surrounded by people and nobody was inside, to tell people, please, let's be civic and let's dissolve the demonstration. That's very violent, right?
Yeah, that's horribly violent. I mean, they were ironic, obviously. They were just memeing. They actually wanted everyone to beat the shit out of a police car. The destruction of.
Well, I must say that if you see the photos, that the police car is actually a big wreck. I'm not going to lie. The police car was. It had a ton of stickers and some broken.
Yeah. But I mean, this is where I want everyone. Yeah. I mean, but this is not an argument. This is the same shit. And I think it's so important to kind of drive this home. Public property is not more important than people's lives or their right to demonstrate. If you want to protect public property, you protect public property. You don't beat people up. I mean, it's very counterintuitive to if you want to protect property. And those arguments that the destruction of public property takes precedence over people's right to actually... I mean, it's just anti-democratic. And anyone that is at any point, positive to democracy or, considered themselves liberal at any end should be very strongly against those types of arguments.
But now those arguments are jurisprudence, and judges are using them against peaceful demonstrators. And that's what that's the current state of Spain and Catalonia.
And yeah, it's kind of intense. So a rude awakening here for a region that was essentially just as. So, but the votes in the referendum were counted. Right? What happened after these tumultuous days?
Were counted, and it was like a 95% in favor, but because obviously there was a boycott against the referendum, and a lot of people that would have voted no didn't go to vote because it was legal by the standards of the Spanish state. But anyway, there were like a 5% that voted against the independence in that referendum. So there were people that they did feel, okay, it's not an agreed referendum, but it's worth it to go to vote and say, okay, my opinion is no. And we are happy to have people that say, okay, I don't want it, but I voted.
How many? 5%?
I think maybe.
So 5% voted no. I mean, it's worth to say that obviously if you're one of the persons who are not in favor of this, you're probably not going to go out if the police is out there beating up. I mean, you're kind of cheering on the police. Yeah. I mean, you probably aren't. I mean, that's rude to say, but it's incredibly brave to actually go out and put your vote down in that. Okay, well, I don't think so, but I really do want and respect the people's right to vote about this. So it's quite incredible, really, that you even have 5%.
And there were like 2.5 million of votes. 2.5 million. That means that at least more or less the half of the the census of the people that can vote in elections here in Catalonia, a little more, they were in favor of the referendum, and around 2 million, a bit more, they were in favor of independence. That's what Spanish or the central government, maybe it's better to say that, they don't know how to handle. And now this has become something very difficult to even to handle for ourselves, because now these past 3 years has been Catalan politics have been very, very, very hard, very difficult, because nobody knows how to proceed. Because we did the referendum, we cannot apply the result. It was a legitimate referendum, although it wasn't legal by Spanish law, but it was legitimate. We always say here in Catalonia, the Pirates, we have this saying: sometimes what is legal is not legitimate. And what is legitimate, it's not legal. Okay.
I mean, it's true. Yeah. I mean, just because it's a law doesn't make it right. I mean, and I mean, you often hear it's incredibly confused. I mean, I often hear, well, you know, I mean, I'm talking, for instance, you know, when you're talking about illegal immigrants, we'll go, well, they're here unlawfully, and then you say, well, they aren't actually, and they're not illegal. I mean, asylum seekers aren't illegal. I mean, just to take an example, and politics really is the discussion about what should be legal. You know, which gets so confused. I mean, well, we're actually talking about how it should be, and not what is, right? To a certain extent. So, but they get confused and used in very weird ways often. So it's good. But so you have these 3 years now of essentially time where you've had this referendum. I mean, I got it, like just this huge kind of awakening, and also several leaders that have been imprisoned over charges that are just absolutely crazy, and really no legal way. I mean, this becomes the real frustration when you in a democracy have no legal way of actually, you know, doing what the majority wants. Obviously, what other ways are there? You know, and that becomes the discussion, which is super dangerous for a democracy. You really need to have a democratic outlet of thought that can actually lead to changes. I mean, often compromises, but probably not more authoritarian rule in this case. But you want to have some compromise. Well, we can do this and do this and do this. Has there been some attempts on compromises since then? And what's going on between the current local government and the central government?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, has there been some attempts at least to kind of to come to terms with the central government?
Yeah, there is something called... I don't know how to translate that, but anyway, there is this idea to have a dialogue space, a meeting point to discuss and try to unlock the situation, to try to unblock it. But anyway, the compromise of the current government is not very solid.
Yeah.
And they postpone the meetings. It's like it's not very important for them, because the main Catalan party currently, Esquerra, it's like they are trying to compromise. They try to help the central government to approve the budget and anything. Okay, they try to be less conflictive. I don't know how to say that in English, but anyway, they try to be to keep the bridges.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't burn them down.
Yeah.
They try to keep them in order to say, okay, let's talk. Although this happened, and let's find a solution. Although our objective is the same one.
Yeah. But it's you said the Guerra party.
Esquerra.
Esquerra. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. Catalan can be a little word. Okay. I mean, they are the biggest party now because they have more supports, and actually the polls tell that they are going to win the next election, that are expected to be. They are not for sure.
Is this also a new party or an old one?
Sorry?
Is this a new party or an old one? Is it kind of grown out of this new movement?
No, it's an natural party. It has a century. It's Esquerra Republicana.
Okay.
But we shorten it to Esquerra.
Okay.
To left. It's just left for us.
Yeah. So what's their political kind of stance in general?
They are like social liberal. They are social liberal.
Kind of centrist.
Maybe. No. Well, maybe, yeah. Actually, everything is center.
Yeah, center on everything. But it's interesting to hear, because I always feel like this tends to be one of the issues of the movement. These sort of, if we're going to talk about progressive types of changes, tends to be that as soon as a lot of these powers, as soon as they get power, they fall in line in an interesting way, and they don't use the political power they have. They rather support, they go like, well, if I do something nice for them, then maybe they'll do something nice for me. And it just never materializes. And the power they have, they just never really seem to use it. Well, first you give me this, then I'll give you that. It's always, well, if I give you this for 5 years, then maybe they will give us something back because we are nice. Which I find kind of funny.
Yeah, that's the main idea of their strategy.
Yeah.
Trying to be nice. It can work, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it allows us to reach another level of autonomy and have a new base point to work with to each party objective. Okay, they want independence. Pirates want to have everybody's voice listened. So maybe it's the next step. We don't know. Here in Catalonia now there is a lot of, it's a clusterfuck, to be clear, because nobody knows how, as I said before, how to proceed. There are elections next February on St. Valentine's Day, and it's going to be what defines the next political cycle. That here in Catalonia, the Catalan Party, we are already working on what we are going to do on these next 5 years, next 4, because for us, the main elections are the European election. That's where we can get more votes. People tend to like to vote alternative things, and we think we can do a lot of good at the European level.
Yeah, but so I think that kind of that actually really I think that's in a nice way, and I want to say I hope that other people are interested in this as well. And we've been talking to a lot of pirates actually now from different parts of Europe, also going through the history of the Pirate Party and the kind of the recent political history, because it's interesting. I think there is always something to learn out of the strategies that different parties have taken. Now, like if you look back at it. And say, hey, what do you think that you could have done differently, or something that that you think that pirates? Let me. What do you think is something that a lesson that you can teach from to other pirates around Europe? Because a lot of these political situations, I mean, the big picture is kind of similar throughout Europe. I mean, it's not that different. Maybe you have a stronger left, actually. In a way, not that they're in a political power, but there seems to be a movement towards the left rather than a movement towards fascism. You probably have both, right? But yeah, some lesson.
I don't know, and that will be my closing remark, because I'm going to need to leave. But anyway, I don't think I have a lesson for everybody. It's very difficult to be on politics, being on government, being on the opposition, being on a little party. It's very hard at all levels. What I will say is that we should be prepared to be able to help all people, not only pirates, but everybody, to have this public service attitude, to have this desire to help everybody to reach a better of us. it's kind of populist.
Little populist.
Populist, but it's real populist. But I think it's something that I sincerely think that it's important thing to do. But because it's hard to extrapolate what happened here in Catalonia because it has been crazy. It's weird. It's even the inside of Spain, Catalonia, Euskadi, Galicia, they are like the opposite of the rest of the country. So it's like we must find first what we are, and we must take back the political issues where they belong, that are the parliaments. It's a very, very difficult situation. Maybe about the repression and the authoritarian drives of the government. In that I feel more closer or more similar to countries like Hungary, but I think they have it worse than us, even.
Yes.
With all what I have said, because Hungary is like another cluster fact and one of the premium ones. It's hard to tell what lesson I can.
But I mean, you're saying something. I mean, your broad alliances with anti-authoritarians, you know, maybe regardless of whether you agree on their immediate economic solution. I mean, regardless of whether you think that, well, they don't. I mean, they want the state to own everything at some point. You know, regardless if they are, you know, to a certain extent, well, you know, kind of looking at having a broad anarchist, libertarian kind of alliances, or rather very democratic alliances, is something that you should look for and not become blind to certain other issues. Because I think that's the basis. I mean, for me, I think that's really the basic of the pirate idea, is that decentralize, let people decide to a certain extent.
I agree. That will be the lesson. Be open. Have this broad view of your society, of your country, because each country is very different, and try to find alliance. Sometimes helping others that compete with you in the elections can yield great results in the future. Here in Catalonia, we were nothing. We were a fringe party. Oh, the pirates! Oh. So freaks. And now, a few months ago, we were highlighted along other parties of Catalonia as one of the main players of the country of Catalonia. We were along CUP, along Convergència now Junts, together, Esquerra, everybody. They made a map, and we appeared at the same level than the rest. And we were like, it's impossible. We were highlighted, we were featured in the maximum audience time of our television, of our regional television. And I think that the thing that made it possible is to know how to collaborate with others, although maybe you don't agree with all what they want, but always fight against the far right.
Yes.
Always fight fascism, always fight authoritarians, collaborate with the ones that are maybe not like you, but they want some things like you.
Yeah, it's a great lesson, actually, and really important. Really important. I agree. Well, I mean, you said you had to run off. It's been really awesome talking to you.
Yeah, it has.
And learning.
I can come back.
Yes, we would love that, actually. I mean, maybe we could take some of these historical things in details and try to, extrapolate. That would be super interesting. And also perhaps talking about what we almost get into there, populism would be interesting to talk about and how to deal with that. But super interesting. Thank you so much for coming and sharing the history and perspectives from the Pirate Party in Catalonia. Great.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And thanks for the chat. I hope everyone found it interesting, and obviously this will be available on YouTube and all of those places later.
It was delightful.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mattermost.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Bye.
And to the rest of our viewers, we'll be closing down, preparing for Arbetsförmedlingen in about 10 minutes, right, Christian?
Yeah, next up is Arbetsförmedlingen. It's starting at 9 o'clock, and we will go through this is actually corruption in the Swedish system. It's what we're going to talk about. That will obviously be in Sweden. Come back then. Yes, see you soon again, everyone. And yes, basically see you soon.
In the meantime, take care. Don't get sick.
Lots of kisses. Yeah, don't get sick. Stay home. Watch us. That's all you have to do. Bye-bye. Oh, sorry. There's one more thing. To everyone, I want to say, Ebenezer, has gifted subs here. One to Carlson Max, one to Socialiseringskommittén. You hero, Ebenezer. Thank you so much. Also, thanks Carlson Max, who hosted the channel, that rated us with a party of 11. And thanks for the follow, Carlson Max. That's really nice. I'll obviously check out what you do. Lots of love to all of you, and I hope to talk to you soon. See you soon. Bye.
See ya.
PTV, oberoende, piratistisk media, skapad och finansierad av tittarna.
Kuken ute. Nej, stoppa in den igen, Miss Midget, så är du snäll.
Final destination, reaching the peak of a life of preparation. Stellar, static, it's distortion as you control my actions in third person. Then comes the sun. Tell me who I have become. Harder for the system. Breed can be part of the story. Don't be a victim. Work harder for the system. I'm guilty of these lies by our submission. Then gravity pulls my feet back to the ground. My world let escapes, and you got yours and I've got mine.
Vi har inte i tillräcklig grad lyckats bryta det ekonomiska fåtalsväldet.
Closer. Jag tror att om man ska företräda hela det svenska samhället, då är det viktigt att man i första hand ställer sig på de sämre ställda gruppernas sida. Det är de som i första hand behöver samhällets stöd. Det är de som är i första hand intresserade av samhällets förändring. Och jag tror att solidaritetskänslan i det svenska samhället är och kommer att bli så stark att det går att få alla samhällsgruppers stöd.